conversation continues and flows freely here on Heard on Thursdays. Talk radio that pops. It's the iconic radio show that made FM talk. And I'm your host, JC Tevez. Welcome to the show. Speaking of iconic, in the iconic Broadway musical Gypsy, about the striptease artist and famous wit Gypsy Rose Lee, there's dialogue that goes, to be a stripper, all you need to have is no talent. You'll pardon me, but to have no talent is not enough. What you need is an idea, something that's going to make your strip special. So our guest tonight has no qualms at all about being called a stripper. In fact, that's how she bills herself. But she may take exception to being called no talent, as would anyone, right? Because what she does takes talent, a lot of it, wit, also hard work and hard muscles, a good dose of imagination and humor, and ideas that make her strip very special indeed. She's a performer in the variety show tradition called Burlesque, which has had some unsavory connotations over the years. She's helping alleviate it, elevate it rather, into art, literally in her case, because she does a lot of elevating and levitating via aerial sports. Burlesque has also become a cult entertainment in the 21st century, and by that nature lends itself to adaptation in the pandemic era. It can be done intimately, it can be done online, and sexily from a distance. Sexily, that's a word, right? After all, it's supposed to be a tease. The audience's imagination takes care of the rest. Heard on Thursdays, we bring back burlesque artist and striptease performer in the Gypsy Rose Lee tradition, Joyen Santos, or simply Joyen. It's our post-Valentine's episode, still the love month, so we've invited Joyen not just to talk about burlesque, but to share her insights on how to make love spicy in the time of you-know-what. Given that she works in a performance genre that sexily stimulates the imagination, the phone lines will be open 8631-9393 in case you have any inquiries. Wink, wink. We're also live on Facebook, facebook.com/RX931, and also on YouTube. Joyen, welcoming you back on the show. Hi, Joyen. How are you?
Hey, that's an amazing intro. I'm
Good to see you.
speechless. Thank you so much. That's amazing. I mean, I hope I step up to it.
Yeah, we like to cover our bases in our introduction, just so that we can hype you up for all the monsters. Because we've had monsters that have been listening to the show for years, so they probably, excited to see you come back and hear you come back. But for our newcomers, this is an opportunity for them to learn about you, about what you do. So let's start off with, how are you, Joyen? What's going on with you? Pandemic vibes. How has the last year been?
Pandemically.
Yeah.
So last year has been quite an adventure. I mean, where do I even begin to explain
know,
it,
right?
right? But we really have no choice but to thrive, really. So even us in this industry, we found ways to get creative. And I think we were talking about it earlier. We got creative with Zoom. We got creative with Zoom and breakout rooms. And yeah, we found ways to make a living and to still strip and make people happy in more ways than one.
Hey, I like that. All right, so
Strip,
let's,
strip, hooray.
I always start, interviewing here, especially like you said, it's a new time where we're finding ways to adjust. So when we're doing these interviews, I'm always curious, what besides your line of work, have you been doing other stuff? Have you been watching any cool shows, or are you learning other skills other than strip tease and burlesque? Have you channeled your energies into other things, or have you been so busy doing your thing?
Well, at the start of the pandemic, of course, it was entirely quiet, right? Nobody knew what the hell to do. But then, like, my coping mechanism really is to keep moving. So now I find that I'm actually training almost every day, working out almost every day,
Wow.
because there's just so much time, right? We're not stuck in traffic anymore. Everyone's staying at home with all of this energy. So, yeah, I've been working out a lot. I actually would love to do Netflix, but it's just by the end of the day, I'm so tired.
Okay, well, that's good news. Good news for you. And
Coping mechanism.
yeah, so you're keeping busy, which means the burlesque scene is alive and well during the pandemic. Am I correct in assuming that?
Well, the shows have taken a turn. Like, there haven't been shows in the Philippines. Okay, not so much shows in the Philippines, but the nice thing about it is I got to participate in shows abroad.
Oh.
That's yeah, because everyone's online and time zones became a social construct.
Hmm.
So I found myself performing in Las Vegas at 5 a.m. in the morning, in the UK at 3 a.m. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty
Baltimore
cool.
9 a.m. Yeah.
The
That's what
international, you're like on an international tour, but from the comfort of your own home.
happened. Yeah. It's
That's
both a good and a bad thing.
okay. All right. So for the first time listeners who might have heard might have just heard of the term burlesque today, or maybe they only know it as that movie with
That's the movie. Yeah.
Cher and Christina Aguilera, I think.
Yeah.
What is? Could you explain to a newbie? Explain to me like I'm five. Obviously, okay, explain to me like I'm 18 years old.
I'm not gonna explain this to a 5 year.
What is burlesque?
Okay.
In simple terms.
All right. Actually, the origin is quite interesting. I think it came from an Italian word, burlesco, and it means to parody, to make fun of.
Mm.
Yeah, it's actually that. It's just that it got assimilated in these cabarets, these underground theaters, underground nightclubs. They incorporated comedy, magic shows, and variety shows, and of course there would be one of the most popular acts would be the striptease.
Uh-huh.
And so when you say that you're coming to see a burlesque show, in some countries, it means a variety show.
A variety show in
Not
some
yeah,
countries.
in some
Okay.
countries, yeah. With
What about
yeah. Go ahead.
what about here in the context of modern burlesque here in the Philippines? What does it mean here?
Well, there's actually both a good and a bad connotation with the word burlesque. Sometimes they pronounce it as burles, burlesque queen. Vilma Santos level, and there's a depiction of it being uh, negative. Let's say like a girl from the province goes to Manila and then ends up being a burlesque dancer. There's a connotation of that because she performs in a nightclub and strips for a living, against her will. There's that.
Okay.
But then again, my group, my different groups, and me, I'm trying to promote, another side of it, a side wherein an empowered woman shows herself and finds strength in that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very, especially in this year or this day and age rather, where there's a lot of scrutiny regarding
Oh yeah.
uh, body positivity and well, especially the woman's body. There must be a lot of pushback, especially here in the Philippines, because of maybe religious views, etc., etc. What have you experienced in terms of the pushback against this movement that you highly advocate for?
Yeah. Um, Usually, when I perform at gentlemen's clubs or famous men's magazines, if you, I'm not gonna name drop
Okay.
or
Okay.
anything, they're usually used to the very submissive, docile female, um, virginal. They look virginal, and they're like
Mhm.
the appeal is that they don't really want to be seen, but they are. You
Right.
know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I get you.
oops, I nahubaran ako, like
Mhm.
that. It's
Mhm.
that appeal. And then in comes this super dominant woman. I'm like, hey, boom,
Oh wow.
boom. This is
Okay.
what I want to show, and I'm proud of it.
Uh-huh.
A lot of things. I get I get a reaction. I get a scared reaction. I get a
Yeah.
surprised reaction. I've had people sort of back away from me because
Okay.
they were like not
They weren't
expecting what
expecting it.
to see. Yeah,
Yeah.
just see that. And I've also received the reaction that they thought I was a drag queen. They thought I was
Oh.
a gay man
All
because
right.
they can't imagine that a female, a
Uh-huh.
biological female, would be that open with her
Mhm.
sexuality and her body.
I see. Since you mentioned the sexuality, gender, is
Yeah.
is uh, is striptease or burlesque exclusively a female domain, or are there different practitioners from different genders? How can you give us the demographics of who practices burlesque here in the Philippines? Because I know it's very different worldwide.
Yeah. Here in the Philippines, it's definitely we're definitely very connected to the LGBTQ community. The
Mhm.
drag queens, they're our sisters, and they've
Nice.
probably been doing burlesque far longer than any straight
Okay.
female has
Great.
here in the Philippines. You know, they've mastered the hair, makeup, wardrobe, the art of striptease, and you know they have places everywhere. They have venues everywhere for that. Whereas the straight female, the heterosexual female, the biological female, I mean,
Okay.
uh, is only sort of awakening to that now, just now, and there's a lot of hesitation with
Okay.
it.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right. I remember. Okay, so last year, just a little story for the monsters out there. Last year, when you were here on the show, after the show, you asked if you could tie my hands up or behind my
Hey,
head, and
good time.
I obliged. I was like, "That's cool. I want to try it out." So this was in a time when when we could still high five each other without fear of COVID or anything. So let's talk about pre-pandemic first, so that people can get an idea of what you do, Join. Because people are hearing you for the first time, hearing
Yeah.
what you talk about burlesque, but they've never been to a show. They've never been to a gentleman's club, for example, to see you perform. What exactly do you do, like at a show or at a state on the stage? How does it all work for before the pandemic started, of course?
Okay. In a nutshell, in a very sexily put
Okay.
nutshell, um, I take off my clothes
Okay.
and people pay me for it
All right. And that's
artfully.
what people are associated when you think stripper. That is the image that people conjure in their
Yeah,
minds. You take
yeah,
off
yeah,
clothes,
yeah,
get paid for it. Okay.
yeah.
That's the very basic gist of it.
That's
But
like the
there's more.
very basic. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let's delve into it.
Yeah, but if I were to to explain further, I could say that there's politics when it comes to it.
Hmm.
There's a story when it comes to it. There's maybe even an advocacy, even though I don't say it straight.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of layers to it, and I'm probably shedding off more layers than just my clothes.
Okay. I understand. Because you likened it to a variety show. So, how long exactly does a performance typically last? Is it an hour, 30 minutes, 20 minutes? What is the typical length of it?
Okay, here in the Philippines, we do one performance is one song. So one standard song 4 to 6 minutes. 6 minutes is really long, but
Okay.
sometimes we could go that long, and you can liken it to exactly that song. There's an intro.
Mhm.
There's you raise up to a climax part. You sort of
Rising
dive,
action.
yeah, rising action,
Right.
venom,
Right.
yeah, the whole
Yep, yep.
the whole
Okay.
plot. Yeah, it's sort
All
of
right.
like that. Yeah, but
Okay.
then again, because it's burlesque and
Uh,
it's an underground form of art, we are encouraged to not follow a simple structure. So you could start naked and like start putting your clothes on
oh.
and end up fully clothed in the end. It's theater.
So when we talk about, you said you take your clothes off. So when you said you start naked, so really it's really like everything is off, or are there? I mean, I'm just out of curiosity, like how exactly how far can one go, and
I'm gonna leave.
are there legal ramifications? I don't know these things. So are there legal ramifications to that? Isn't it?
I'm going to comment here with event link, and you can check it out for yourself. You can
Okay.
find out for yourself.
All right. Okay.
How far do we go?
Okay. Okay. So by the way, they can catch you online, on your social media pages, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about again later on. But for, how do people reach out to you before the pandemic, and of course now online? But how did they find you? How are your services
Mm.
garnered throughout
Or
the years? How did you
advertised.
advertise? How did you build your network of clients and connections?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually one of the people who's very out in the open. So if you Google something like burlesque Philippines, I'm there. Yeah, Google, or like we used to have a residency in the Poblacion areas in Makati. You could always find us there pre-pandemic. That was pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
I feel like we
So
always have to say, "Oh, this was
yeah,
pre-pandemic," because you can't get
pre-pandemic.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, but yeah, this is the new normal.
Mm.
Yeah, so there's that. We would always be actually in the artistic bars, gallery bars, Pineapple Lab,
Mm.
B-side, in the publishing areas
Yeah. Yeah.
before, and those circles are quite tightly knit, right? If
Okay.
you're familiar with that. And yeah, we do features, media features like this one. We were pretty out there.
Right.
Nowadays though, during the pandemic, there was this crazy censorship, like mass shadow banning of all like sexy content creators.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, and this is global. It was a global phenomenon, and I'm part of that. So I'm just permanently shadow banned.
Was that was that on any specific social media platform, or is it just across all?
Across all, man. It started with Facebook. It started with Facebook, like digging up my posts from years ago,
Really?
years ago, and then saying that this post has been taken down for nudity and sexual solicitation, but it would not always be nude and soliciting sex.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
was I was just tagged. I think I was just flagged as that
Uh-huh.
until I had to shut down my Facebook account and transfer to
No.
Instagram and make
Okay.
a Twitter. But then,
Mhm.
like, they're also starting to crack down on us there. So my engagement has been really low.
Mm.
They're picking us off like flies on all of
Yeah,
the major social media platforms.
that's a bummer.
Tried
That's a
doing
bummer.
OnlyFans, but it's not allowed in the Philippines.
Oh, it's. Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. So their OnlyFans is not. You can't create an account here for OnlyFans.
Not if you have, you can create one if you have an address in the country that allows
I
OnlyFans, because there are
see.
Filipinos with OnlyFans accounts, but they're connected to someone
An address
else.
abroad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Is that because maybe do you know the history behind that? Has the government shut it down here, or is it just because they just haven't started operations here?
They haven't started operations here, and OnlyFans is very ethical, because they allow sexy content. They
Mm.
allow to some extent pornographic content. They allow that, which means
I'm
they are
saying, oh yeah,
very
I know, right? Oh yeah, I know
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I've seen it on
Surprise!
Twitter. I've seen it.
No, OnlyFans
Mm.
has content creators from all they have a variety of content creators, not just the porn stars. Okay,
Yeah.
they're just famous for that because
Mm.
they allow it. Now
Mm.
they can allow it because they're very paperwork heavy. They really get the consent forms and
Yes.
the release forms.
Mm.
They're very streamlined with it because they
Okay.
don't want to be
Get
associated with illegal content.
activity. Yeah.
Yeah, illegal activity. And so we don't have that in the
Okay.
Philippines. I
Right.
wish
Yeah.
we did. I wish we
Maybe
did.
someday. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Okay. Yeah.
I was actually going to get, since you were talking about, since we're already on the topic of social media, I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of, because you're talking about being shadow banned. So for the monsters listening, just a basic, maybe explanation of shadow banning is you might had all these followers, but when you post something, it doesn't reach
Yeah.
a majority of your followers. Is that correct? Am I correct in understanding the definition of shadow banning?
That's one of the repercussions.
One of
Yeah.
the repercussions. So, but lately I've been on TikTok, and I'm sure you might. I don't know if you're on TikTok, Joyanne, but it's probably the biggest social media platform in the world right now. I've seen some sexy content, not necessarily pornographic, but I've seen a lot of very attractive
Chicks and
people on
thongs.
there. Yeah, chicks and tongs dancing dances, right? Uh,
Twerking. Yeah.
but I've also seen, at least here in the Philippines, that the Philippine TikTokers who maybe post something that might come off as racy or insensitive or sexual are getting their videos taken down.
Yes.
Do you have any
Yes.
thoughts on that?
Yes. Well, I was bored as hell at the start
Okay.
of the pandemic, so I do have a TikTok at
Hey.
Joyen. I
Yay.
did. I started it at
Okay.
Joyen, but they
Uh,
keep taking down my content also.
okay.
Like
That's
fully clothed,
really.
fully clothed. There's discrimination, definitely, because whoever's behind the shadow banning and the content deletion, it's a human, okay, and they've got their biases.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna say it: all of the white girls, all of
Okay.
the skinny white girls, skinny blonde white girls, they're not gonna get reported. Okay, the colored folks, the black. Did you know? Did you know that black girls twerking is shadow banned as a
Is it
hashtag? Yeah, but white girls twerking is not.
really
Yeah,
interesting?
yeah.
That
So there's
is
that thing,
thrilling.
yeah, going on in social media, and we're like, guys, my
Right.
butt is nice. Come on.
Oh man. All right. So since we're on the online sphere of of the conversation now, let's talk about now, Joyen. You said before we started this interview behind the scenes, you told me that at this time you could probably be a Zoom technician. Tell us about
Yeah.
working on Zoom, how that works. And we even talked about breakout rooms. Behind the scenes. So maybe tell us about the intricacies of a Zoom burlesque show now.
Okay. So major platform that we use for shows nowadays is Zoom. It's really got to be Zoom. Everyone has it. Everyone uses it for work and for
Mhm.
other things. Okay.
Right.
And what do you call this? It's password protected. You know,
Hmm.
what do you call this? You can change your name upon entry. You can add filters on your video.
Wow.
Okay, so I can come there completely without any makeup, and I look like I have makeup. It's great, you know. So that's the main thing that we use for shows. You can spotlight the performers.
Uh-huh.
Okay, people can private message one another in the chat,
Mhm.
and then the breakout rooms. You know, if somebody let's say purchases a VIP private dance, you can put them in a breakout room, and for how many minutes do their thing, and then go back to the main room. it's
Hmm. That's pretty cool. That's
it's
pretty
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah. One thing that pops up in my mind, I guess, maybe on your end, you've also discussed it with your peers. What about the exclusivity of it all? Because you said it's password protected, but what about maybe potential people recording the performance? I mean, because before you can do it, you can confiscate cell phones. I remember
Yeah,
we talked about this before. When you would go to shows, you would usually confiscate cell phones, make them sign
a waiver. Yeah.
waiver, etc. Is that something? How do you combat that now in the digital world of your profession now?
Honestly, that's a major risk. Okay? That's a
Uh-huh.
major risk, and I had to make this lecture. It's an entire lecture. It's called "The Art of Online Stripping," which you
Mm.
can find on my Patreon. Kaching! It's there
Oh,
on my
Patreon. We gotta talk about that in a bit too.
yeah, let's talk about it in a minute. And
Mhm.
it basically states, that by stripping online, recording yourself on video and transferring it online wherever, or broadcasting it exposes you in more ways than one.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you have to be open to that scenario, and you have to control what you want to show. Okay, you always have to keep in mind that, okay, what if my dad sees this, and I
Right.
have to be okay with that, or I have to know how to be okay with that. That's one of the biggest risks of performing online, of
Yeah,
creating sexy content online.
I
It
could
really is.
imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, Joanne, I wanted to ask you, since you're very comfortable with yourself, performing online, even on your social media, you're comfortable posing in what
Being
most people
naked.
would be, yeah, most people would probably be like, oh my god, I could never rock that outfit, I could never, go that far. I have a question for you that maybe is pondered by a lot of people. If because there's been a lot of leaks and people being exposed, their nudes are being leaked online.
Mm.
Your thoughts on that happening, and also if you take nudes and it gets leaked online, is there somewhere down the line, like, are you kind of at fault as well because you took the pose the risk of having it exposed, or should it just I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because there's been a lot of talk about that happening to some.
Oh, yeah, that's a that's a good question. That's a very good one. I actually maybe unpopular, but
Mhm,
I like to err on the safe side. Okay, so
mhm.
whatever it is, again, even if I take it on my phone, I take it on my phone. I record myself moaning, having an orgasm. As long as I capture that, I already assume that it's gonna go somewhere I don't want it to go to.
Okay,
That's just me
you're going
being a
with
control
the
freak.
mindset that maybe it could go, it could get leaked online.
Yeah, yeah. I already assume that liability, whatever it is, and I I'm not okay with it all the time,
Hmm.
but I know how to be okay with it.
I see.
Yeah, it's part of our professions. What do you call this? Side effects,
Yeah,
maybe.
I guess maybe negative impacts that it could have in your
Yeah,
life.
it's a liability. It's a liability, and we have to learn how to be okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very well said. And the people that do expose people's sensitive photos and videos, these people are kind of there's a bunch of them online, a bunch of weirdos, a bunch of creeps
they
online.
should burn in hell. Yeah.
Right, they should, right? But I have a question for you, Joyanne. Because when people imagine clientele of maybe even let's talk about the Zoom burlesque shows, a lot of people, and I think I don't think maybe I'm generalizing, but a lot of people might think, are these creepy old men with just looking for some excitement? Like who are the clientele of burlesque shows? Because there is a connotation behind the consumers of your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think mostly in the Philippines, based on my experience, the creepy old men genre is there. It
Is there?
exists.
Okay,
Definitely,
not
it's there.
not
Yeah,
surprising. All right,
especially if they have money. Come on, guys,
yeah,
it's a job,
it
okay?
happens. It
And
happens.
creepy old men, they usually have money, okay?
Okay.
But here in my
Mhm,
case, my market is a bit it's a bit broad, as I discovered. I also cater to the LGBTQ.
mhm.
So in these Zoom breakout rooms, these champagne rooms, these VIP rooms, I have been booked one time by a straight guy who was having a birthday celebration. One time,
Okay.
okay, and then the rest of the people who booked me are women.
All
They're
right.
biological females, or
Okay.
they are non-binary
Non by.
non-binary, and their pronouns are she and her.
Okay. That's a
Yeah.
very yeah. So I think most people who just heard you answer would be surprised at that fact, huh?
Probably for here in the Philippines, it's
Yeah.
mostly the creepy old guy in the
Okay.
Philippines. But
Got it.
women like to stand other women, and
Yeah.
it's great.
I love.
It's great. Yeah.
I think a lot of people would also maybe be surprised to know that this is also something that maybe couples do together. Can you talk about the couples aspect of maybe booking a burlesque show or having you teach them things?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
It's funny because I actually just had an inquiry today. My
Great.
husband's 40th birthday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I also, one of the things that happened during the pandemic. So I got this. I made the art of online striptease, the
Hmm.
art of online stripping. It's an hour-long lecture. I also was able to make this movement and mindset class, online class called Lover Striptease.
Okay.
Lover Striptease, and it's a class wherein the what do you call this? The doer, the dancer. I'm trying
And
to use gender neutral terms because
okay.
sometimes they're not male and female. The
The
dancer has a
performer.
role, and
Mm-hmm.
then the receiver. There you go. The giver and the
Give
receiver
her a new receiver.
also
Okay.
has a role. Yeah, yeah. So it's a collaboration that makes a striptease scene successful for all parties, because sometimes there's not just two parties.
I see. Could be more, right? Could be
Could
more.
be more. Could be more. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually a popular class as well. I was able to teach that in Singapore, but we were in Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I taught them the mindset, how to create a successful striptease scene for the givers and the receivers,
Hmm.
both sides, and I also taught them a bit of bed burlesque choreo, bed
I
stripping
see.
choreo. Yeah.
On that note, can you maybe? I mean, I know you don't want to give off all your secrets and whatnot, Joyan. But when
I have
you talk about giving a class or just working in this line of work, do you believe that you have to have a niche, or is there like what made you successful in your opinion versus maybe someone who tried to do it and didn't succeed as much? Is there a did you have something a gimmick or something special that you did a niche?
hmm, let's see. I'm not sure if I would classify myself as successful just yet,
Okay.
but what I think, when I would see and experience others attempt to do this, there has to be authenticity.
Authenticity.
Yeah, there really has to be authenticity. Most people, when they're tapping into, this power of female sexuality, they sort of get consumed by it, or they get scared of it.
Hmm.
Like, there's an image of a dominatrix, for example, that they kind of want to be, but they are not.
I see.
Okay, so you have to accept that this kind of profession, it has its ins and outs, it has its good side and its bad side, and you have to accept all of that, or you have to learn how to accept all of that, and that's part of being authentic.
I see.
Accepting, for example, that what, I preach about female sexuality all the time, but then I'm insecure about certain parts of me too.
Okay. I
You
mean, I
know,
think it's normal. It's
yeah,
normal. It's
yeah,
normal.
yeah. It's normal because when people start to think that, oh, I have to be in the illusion of sex, I have to be the illusion of the perfect woman, they
Yeah.
think that that's perfect, that they should be perfect and nothing else. But it's the imperfections that count also. It's part of
Yeah.
being authentic. I
I,
don't like showing my toes, for example.
yeah, I don't like smelling my toes, so we have something in common.
So a
Actually,
toast to that.
yeah, I have a really cool story, Joyanne, about so after our interview last year, because it was
Mm.
almost exactly this time last year. I remember someone messaged me and said that because of hearing you talk about this line of work, they were considering getting into it, and they said hearing you talk about it actually pushed them to kind of start. And I think
Oh,
just you talking about that is really cool. So for somebody who does want to start, somebody who wants to get into the line of work that you're in, what are the stepping stones? Because it seems like just even performing is already a giant leap into the fire. Are there baby steps? What are the beginner steps to starting in your industry?
um, regarding burlesque,
Hmm.
and the art of striptease, we're very lucky right now because I accidentally started the online classes. The regular online burlesque classes, wherein you can just lock yourself up in a room, in your own bedroom. Turn on Zoom maybe from your phone or something, and learn the basics, the basic movements, the basic strip flow with me.
Hmm.
So most of my students started out that way, online through the classes with Beast House, which you guys interviewed before also.
Yeah, we did.
The best pole and reel studio in the country, Beast
Nice.
House. Yeah, there you go. So that's a very baby, stepping stone,
Okay.
going to burlesque class, and we created this very safe and supportive community of strong females. Actually, I don't advertise it a lot, and I'm shadow banned, so I can't advertise so much.
Okay.
So my students are the ones who advertise for me, and they have day jobs, they're marketers, they're nurses, and burlesque is our little safe space.
Yeah. It seems like
Yeah.
something that it's really an organic growth kind of industry because like you said because of the shadow banning or maybe the topic or the occupation about
Yeah.
it seems that, for a lot of people might be taboo, or people, it would be like, oh, how do we even talk about this? So the fact that your students are sharing it, I think that's really great. And yeah, I think even if it is grow maybe at a slower pace compared to
Yeah,
conventional, quote unquote, conventional industries, at least you have a
definitely.
dedicated group of, yeah, an
Yeah.
organic group of people who really believe in what you're doing. So actually, we let's talk about Beast House. So yeah, I know you've been performing, but before we do that, I want to invite our listeners who are on Facebook as well as listening on air, of course. If you want to call up 86319393, if you have any questions about burlesque, about maybe spicing things up as a couple or alone, or if you're shy to call, you can always give us a nickname, or you can comment on our Facebook. We're live right now, facebook.com/RX931. Feel free to send in those questions to Joyanne. But Joyanne, let's talk about Beast House. I noticed that you've been posting performances with them, doing aerial. So what is aerial? Is that part of burlesque? Is it an essential part of burlesque, or is it just a different form of uh, performance?
Performance. Okay. So with Beast House, I am a trainee of Beast House. They're training me to possibly be one of their company members.
Mhm.
It's a sort of it's a separate track. Being a professional pole dancer and aerialist, but these art forms are sisters. They're very much related. With Beast House, yeah. So I'm training to become part of them and learning how to pole dance, which is very very close to being a sexy performer. Aerialist meaning you're performing acrobatic tricks in the air with an apparatus. Whether it could be aerial silks, the cloth, the two pieces of cloth, or aerial hoop, the round thing that you would sort of interweave yourself in and out of. In my case, it really made sense for me because I would tie myself up, not just you and not just other people. I would
Okay.
tie myself up and
Mm.
suspend myself in the air. So it was already very much related. So the president of the company of Beast House, Jamaica Hornacion, is actually my mentor. She's the best pole and aerial coach in the country.
Yo.
Yeah, there you go. She mentored me, and we created this art form called aerial bondage, wherein my Japanese style rope bondage, self suspension was fused with aerialist principles. The technical acrobatic part of it.
Mhm.
It's amazing, and yeah, they're not exactly the same as my worlds are. Pink BDSM, burlesque, aerial, pole, but they could overlap.
They could overlap. Okay.
Yeah, in my
What I've
case, they do.
Yeah, what I've noticed about people who take aerial hoop classes, I know I have several friends that take these classes. Well, pre-pandemic, they would take these
And
classes, and their biceps and their triceps and their shoulders are, oh my goodness, like they are like yours, Joyanne. If you can see on the Facebook Live right now, they are
there you
they,
go.
those abs, those abs, Joyanne. So I mean, it takes a lot of strength, right, to do. Can you tell us about maybe the conditioning aspect of it, the strength training aspect of aerial hoop
Oh, where do I begin? A lot of work starts on the floor.
on the floor?
Before you even go up, you have to really make sure that you're really nice and warm. Otherwise, you might dislocate something.
Hmm.
You have to be strong enough. You have to be able to lift yourself. Let's say even in just a plank position for a longer time than most people. You have to be able to do push-ups. You have to be able to do pull-ups.
Oh, pull-ups. Let's not even talk about pull-ups. I don't even remember the
Yeah,
last time able to do a
one
pull-up.
hand,
One-handed?
one hand. Yeah, or
What?
do it with with one ankle hanging upside
Oh my
down.
man.
It's fun though. You know what? It sounds hard and intimidating at first, but then you get addicted to it because it makes you feel really good and strong and beautiful. When you do these things up in the air.
Okay, great. I'm sure that I mean, if the people watching on Facebook just saw you flex your guns, I'm sure they're like, man, after pandemic, we got to get into the hoop
We're
game.
open. No, we're open right now.
Okay, okay. So you're
Yeah,
open.
so
What
Beast House
are
is
the
open right now.
what are the class schedules? How can they reach out to your team, the Beast House team?
All right. So Beast House is also in Facebook and Instagram, Beast House PH.
Mhm.
We're everywhere. Also on my profiles,
Okay,
everywhere
well.
in my profile.
Mhm.
Joy and Joyen. I post about them a lot because we work together. Yeah, and we've actually been really busy lately. We've been accepting both in studio and virtual clients and classes. So we're up and running. Pay us a visit. We're in this nice little spot in Capitolio, smack right in the middle of Metro Manila.
Mhm.
And yeah, we could be your happy place. Hang out, literally.
Yeah. You know, Joanne, just talking to you, you're very. I mean, I think it's obvious to anyone listening and watching right now that you're quite the entrepreneur. You did mention Patreon earlier, so why don't we give
Yeah,
you that platform to, well, a plug your Patreon, but also tell people what that is, because Patreon is something I see on YouTube videos from
yeah,
people based in America, North America,
yeah.
or even Europe. Here, it's kind of, you don't hear much about it. So tell us about Patreon and what you do on your Patreon.
Yeah. Yes, sadly, Filipinos don't like to tip or subscribe for content. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna call you out on that,
Okay,
guys.
okay.
Unless I see you on my Patreon. It's patreon.com/joyenjoyen. It's basically like any social media. Like there's a feed, there's a news feed. Like let's say Facebook. Everyone knows Facebook, right? But you have to pay to unlock certain levels of content.
I see.
So yeah, with me, for example, I rarely post on social media now. I now post only maybe the public announcements, like for this show. Um, but that's like the tip of the iceberg, the kinky iceberg.
Okay.
A lot of my content like is on Patreon. Like I upload behind the scenes content wherein I cuss and I speak in Filipino in like really rough Filipino and I make mistakes. I do blog entries
Yeah.
exposing my heart and soul. I also
Mm,
do like a lot of striptease content that I can never post on public social media.
understood.
Oh my god, I'm constantly being reported on YouTube and
Yeah.
Instagram. So all of the reported content, all the private content goes there.
So in a way, Patreon has kind of given you the platform that you've always kind of wanted, in a
For
way.
now, yeah, for
For
now,
now.
because yeah, for these platforms, the moment that they kind of get on your radar as a sexy content creator, a sexy performer, they kind of start to ban you.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think it's so strange, right? Such a strange. I
yeah,
mean, I understand maybe having to protect underage viewers, etc. But
that's right. That's right.
sometimes I feel, I mean, this is just my personal take. I feel like it's being done for like all legal consenting adults. It's like, why are you making this decision for me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In a way, in
Because
a way.
there's a lot of things I guess on the internet that we can't control. Like even though all of my profiles are technically 18 and above,
Uh-huh.
you
Okay.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Kids are
Uh,
smart nowadays. Yeah.
okay. So speaking of, I know this is something that maybe people might get confused or at least associate with your line of work. Last time you were here, we talked about BDSM. We talked about the that
The king
community, especially
community. Yeah.
in the Philippines. Is that community active during COVID times?
Mhm. Okay.
Uh,
Personally, I had to stop. I had to
uh,
stop because it's very close contact.
yeah,
Tying someone among other things.
among
So
others,
a lot of
definitely.
biting, and a lot of exchange of close contact. Let's say it's
Yeah,
close contact.
I get it. I get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
it's close contact. It was very difficult for me because not very happy with how the country handled the COVID
Yeah.
pandemic. So
Mhm.
I had to stop personally. But
Okay.
then I guess because everyone was in lockdown, I also got a lot of emails.
Oh,
I
interesting.
also got a lot of emails like long, really long letters, love letters asking to sub for me, and I'll pay for rapid testing. When are you available? All of these things. I guess they got itchy. They got
Okay.
itchy, and
Huh.
if I wasn't available, I turn them down, or I won't reply. It depends. But some of my colleagues, I think, are still up and running,
Okay.
up and
So
at it.
got it. Got it. So it's, I guess people are treading carefully because of the
I
virus.
am, yeah, I am.
So let's answer, or let's ask you, Joy, and a few questions from our social media. I think we have some of
Yeah,
Twitter, a lot of anonymous accounts, and just because I get it, I get it.
I know the
Um,
deal. Yeah, it's okay.
yeah. One is asking, a listener is asking you, Joyanne, during the pandemic, what can make love spicy during the pandemic if you're locked down at home? If you've been with the same person for the last year, what else can we do if we've tried everything? That's what they asked.
Define everything. Define
Exactly. It's
everything. I mean, have you tried maybe switching roles in bed? I don't think so.
Mhm.
Switching roles, switching, being the giver or the receiver, tease and denial, dressing up, dressing down, something as, let's say, as simple as changing your hairstyle could spice things up. Something as, online delivery, buy all of the lingerie, buy all of the new lingerie, learn, go to my workshops
Okay.
and study how to live it up. Explore with scents, with fragrances, explore with textures.
I'm writing,
Satin,
writing all this
satin,
down. Man. I'm
yeah, write it
writing it.
all down. Write it all
Yeah.
down. Satin sheets, blindfolds, guys. There's so many ways to be creative. What else? Write a song together. There's so
Mhm.
many things to do. The funny thing is, people were complaining to me. I know it doesn't look it, but I enjoy being at home and being an introvert. And I'm
Mhm.
like, people are complaining, oh, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. We can't go out. Guys, there's so many things to do at home, and we're very lucky, to have a home to spend the pandemic in,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Take up
Mhm.
knitting. I took up
Yeah.
sewing.
You did? Did you?
And
How's that going?
I made a gown. The poster photos that you used. I
Mhm.
sewed the gown of that.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did that.
I did
Great.
that. I
That's
did that.
very
Just
fruitful.
saying. There's so many ways. Sorry. I
Great.
hope that helps.
Yeah, we have another question here off of
Yeah,
social
go
media,
ahead. Yeah.
asking you, has your line of work ever affected your personal relationships? I'm assuming they mean maybe romantic relationships. Yeah, actually, that's an interesting question. Because it's not, your job is less common than, say, because when you ask someone what does your partner do, most people say, oh, she they are a lawyer, they are a doctor, they are work at, so how does that work with you when someone, when you're in if you've ever, when you've been in a romantic relationship, how does that work, what's the dynamic like?
Okay, so most people, I'm not very public when it comes to it, but I do have a long-term partner who has been there since the very beginning. We're
Mhm.
celebrating our 10-year anniversary on Saturday.
Congratulations.
Happy
Congratulations.
anniversary, 10-year
Hey,
anniversary.
yes, wow.
Tenured. We're tenured. Okay,
Mhm.
and guys, it's a job. Okay, you have to first understand that it's a job. Okay, so I have my job face, which is probably what you're seeing right now. I also have my pambahay face.
Okay.
I also have my partner face, partner, girlfriend,
Mhm.
um, live-in partner face. Okay, so um, I guess it's that. It's changing the perspective that, oh my God, she's so maligalig. She takes her clothes off and whatever. We all, to some extent, expose ourselves at work, um, shed off layers at work,
Mhm.
get objectified at work.
Yeah.
You don't hire an accountant because he has a good personality. You hire him because he's good at accounting,
Hmm.
right? Hire
Yeah.
me because I'm good at stripping. So it's
There we
it's that you have to think about it as a job, and then you realize that I go there for work. I come back home. I eat dinner. We watch Netflix when we have time. There you
go.
go. Yeah.
Great, great. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's a very reassuring answer for a lot of people who might be like, "Oh, I want to get into this or I want to do this." Which leads us to our final question for you off of social media once again, Joyanne.
Yeah.
Uh, when what are the sorry, hold on, let me read it here. What
Right,
do
right.
you think I should do with my partner if they are not comfortable with the spicy ideas? Spicy, like what is there something that can you convince somebody? I guess is maybe what they're asking. Is it bad to try to convince them, or how do you go about someone who might not be so comfortable with the more risque suggestions that they offer?
Okay. So it's the question is between two parties. I'm
Two parties.
imagining
Yeah.
it's between two parties, and the first party wants to ask the second party. It's like that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
based on the wording that I hear from the first party, there's a lot of layers to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like that first party is a little bit, unsure or hesitant still. Okay, so that has to be recognized first and foremost. Again, with I think we sort of touched on this, being in tune with both the good and the bad sides of it and being authentic with
Mm-hmm.
it. This person first has to know what they want, why they want it, what their goals are for it, what they don't know about it, what they would like to learn about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Know it first, and then once they are sure of that, once they are at peace with that, with themselves, and then they can involve the second party.
Ah, I see. So trying to maybe educate yourself more and be more comfortable with, like you said, being who you are, like
Yeah,
accepting
yeah.
who you are, and then from there take it
You
from there.
first. Yeah, you first. Because if you come into, if you involve the second party right away, it's going to be so magulo because both of you don't know what's
Know what's
happening.
going on.
Yeah, right. And it's okay to not know what's happening or not know what you want, but you have to clearly convey that.
That you
Hey, I'm
don't.
not sure if I'm not sure if you're into this, but I've been thinking about this a lot, and it would really mean so much to me if you won't judge me, but I think that I am open to playing with the strap on.
I see.
I know that you'll be scared, but this is the research that I did on it. Um,
It's like
I'm not a yeah,
presenting a
yeah,
thesis, right?
yeah.
My
Well,
argument, my thesis
yeah, a
statement.
little yeah, yeah. I guess tailor fit to everyone's needs, to the party's needs. But I like to go that way because it removes the creepy vibes if you're just honest about it and sincere,
Yeah,
authentic.
I
And
think
if
that.
they think, yeah, yeah, exactly. And if they
Yeah.
think that that isn't for them and you're being a creeper, then why stay in the relationship?
There we go. There we go. So if you want to get advice from Joyanne, of course, we would love to keep talking more about
Yeah,
this, but we're coming to an end, which would, I know a lot of people listening. There's probably a lot of people who are like, maybe they didn't want to call, maybe they didn't want to ask, but I know they're interested. I know they're listening and they want to know about this world that you are in, Joyanne. Please tell them where they can find you online and how they can maybe let's combat that shadow ban. Let's get the real people who
yeah.
really know about this. How can they find you online? How can they reach out to you?
Okay, so I'm mostly on, I'm not so much on Facebook anymore, but on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. It's at Joy and Joyen. Very easy to search at Joy and Joyen. Just my name
J O
said
Y Joyen, just twice in a row.
like enjoy, so you remember.
Ah, Joyen. Okay. And do you have any upcoming maybe talks or shows, or once again remind people that maybe the was it a book that you wrote, or was it that it's like a thesis statement that you wrote? I remember you were talking about it earlier.
Oh, the art of online stripping.
There we go.
My
There.
classes, yeah. My classes you can take them online, which is great. I'm gonna be part of this virtual sexuality festival in March. Oh, that's next month.
That's
There you
one
go. It's called,
crazy,
yeah,
right?
it's
Next
next month.
month already.
Yeah, it's based in Singapore. It's called Sugar and Spice, this virtual Asian sexuality festival made by Asians for Asians. So we're going to be tackling a lot of relevant Asian concerns when it comes to the S word that nobody wants to mention here in Asia, especially in the Philippines:
Mhm.
sex, sex. Okay, hopefully that doesn't get banned. And I'm always at Beast House Tuesdays, 8 p.m. teaching burlesque. And yeah, you can get in touch with me through my social media. However, I'm available for private classes, among other things. Always around.
Alright. And of course, I'm sure you have a lot of maybe students or fans or just friends watching. You want to say what's up to them online, on air? Any hellos, greetings, shout outs?
Yeah, I mean, some people are messaging me. There you go. I think Joam is still alive. I'm not sure if my burlesque students are listening. I think Alyssa tuned in. Maybe Nessa, my dance bestie. Yeah, they're all around. I would say hi to my mom. Yeah, I'm gonna say hi to my mom because there's a recording of this, right? And I
Yeah,
always say hi to her when
of
I'm on
course.
there. Hi, mom. I love you. It's a bit late, so she's asleep now, but she'll see the she'll see the recording.
All right. So Joyanne, thank you very much. Actually, Jeppy is saying that she's here watching you. So
Jeffy, hi. She's my burlesque student. Really good stripper in the making. Love
yeah.
you.
So thank you very much, Joyanne, for joining us. Hopefully, and I don't, I mean this seriously. I hope you can tie us up again in person in the future, like when you come over to the booth. But we'd love to have you back, and thank you for opening our eyes and our ears to this world and letting us know that it's still very possible to spice things up in our lives. Join us
Mhm.
again next week for more hot conversations here on Heard on Thursdays. My name is JC Tevez. Have a wonderful evening and always keep it locked here on Manila's hottest Monster RX 93.1. Good night, everyone.
Heard on Thursdays. Heard on Thursdays.